not yet, but
Yeah. I was listening to the Tigers Guardians going over that League series.
yeah, that I'm excited.
Yeah, it's the League playoffs.
I'd love to see the Tigers make a run for it.
Check 1 2 1 2 1 2.
I know that.
If you need a check on your levels, you can do it now. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2, testing 1 2, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Normal speaking volume.
Well, if you come over from the COB, if there's like a decent chunk, it's like it's pretty steep incline.
You guys trying to do before
You good with white balance? I'll sit over.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for being here with us today. As we have heard for the last month through the media, first of all, and thank you for each one of you reporting. We've heard that the governor is going to be calling a special session. The idea behind that, as he has shared, is due to the tragedy that happened at Annunciation School and Church in that community. And what I'd like to tell you today is, again, as all of you know, the governor is the only person in the state that can call a special session. We are waiting for the governor to do that. I have been in meetings for the last probably 2 weeks on and off, the 4 leaders and the governor, and we've been in those conversations. And today, our meeting was very brief. We, as you saw in the public, the Democrats had put forward parameters that would have really silenced the voice of the legislature to get work done in a special session. I returned an idea, kind of a broad framework that just reiterates, again, Governor, when you call that special session, as you know, House Republicans will show up. We will be there to work. We are fully invested in the work that needs to happen. We will do that. We also want to give the legislature the full process to hear bills, vet bills, and have them go through the committee process. In the House specifically, we are tied, and so anything that goes through both the committee process or that gets passed off the House floor will need to be bipartisan. We've already done that work throughout this entire year in the legislature, and that would continue even with the topics at hand. That means any member would be able to introduce a bill. They would be referred to committee, and then the committees would take their process. That is what we put forward to the governor today, what I had put forward to him, and just saying we want that legislative process to work. Again, the governor is the only one who can call a special session. We stand ready to fully participate in the legislative process. The legislature is the only body that can pass bills, and then, of course, the governor could either sign or veto bills. But that's where we stand today. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Leader Harry Niska.
Thank you. Well, it's become clear, I think, to everyone what should have been obvious from the start, that the governor's talk of a special session has been a partisan political stunt from the beginning. Unfortunately, he has not been interested, or has not acted as if he's interested in finding bipartisan solutions to the problem of school safety, the problem of public safety, the problem of mental health, but has instead been trying to demand something that's really, frankly, bizarre in the history of special sessions in Minnesota. The idea that Democrats who wouldn't even give certain bills hearings when they had the majority now want to fast track those bills through without actually even releasing what the language of those bills would be, but try to fast track those through in a special session. Normal special sessions are either things that have broad bipartisan support or things where there's been a legislative process that almost got done before there was a need for a special session. This isn't anything like that. Republicans have been have made clear that we're open to serious bipartisan solutions when it comes to school safety, when it comes to public safety, when it comes to mental health. And now it's clear that the governor really isn't interested in that. He's really just interested in trying to politicize a really horrible tragedy. And that is really unfortunate for the state of Minnesota, the lack of leadership from his corner. We'll take questions.
Did you guys submit a proposal, and what did that include, what did that mean?
Again, yes, I did send something over to the governor's office, and it included the fact that the governor is the only one that can call that special session. Bills will be introduced. Determinations would be made if we would go that far as any spending that would take place. That could be discussions and decisions made by the 4 leaders. Bills will make their way through the process and then be able to be voted on, whether it's in committee or on the House floor. It was just very basic of how the legislature actually works. And to Leader Niska's point, I think it's important to recognize the work that we did when we returned on June 9th for a one-day special session. That work had already been fully vetted all the way through the entire legislative session. Bills were introduced, they were discussed. As you know, we have co-chairs in every committee. That was already worked on. This is a very unique situation that we can handle, but it needs to fully be vetted through the legislative process in order to get the work done in a bipartisan way.
Did you guys have any mention in your proposal with gun legislation at all?
We didn't have anything specific as far as any bill language or any specifics on that. We included school and community safety, mental health supports, public safety, and as you know, public safety also includes guns, firearms, and any type of law that goes around that. So it's very broad, but we also had said not limited to that. As you know, the governor has been very clear on wanting to handle the fraud that continually comes up to the surface where you're reporting on fraud. That OIG bill did not get over the finish line in the House at the end of this year. And so this would give the opportunity, should the governor want, but specifically should legislators want to move those fraud preventions through, they would be able to do that in this process. Again, bills introduced, referred to committee, passed through committees, and then back onto the House floor.
I know you said that you need to see like literature on any kind of gun restriction for these statements, but is there any world where you would even consider like a restriction or any kind of ban on an assault type of attack?
Well, I think what's clear, and what I think the media has been clear in reporting, is that there's not any sort of language along those lines that has majority support in either house, in either the House or the Senate. In fact, from a lot of reporting, it sounds like anything along those lines would have bipartisan opposition in the Senate, which is currently down 2 members already. And so Democrats, I think, would maybe be at 30 or maybe 31 votes in the Senate on whatever configuration of that language is, which I think is why the governor hasn't actually put out any specific proposal that even could be heard or could have hearings about. I think another important thing to remember is, even though bills like that have been introduced, even when Democrats had the majority, they didn't even bother having committee hearings on those bills. So what the governor is asking for is that we just pass bills that A, haven't been written yet, and B, have never had committee hearings, and skip past the entire legislative process, ignore the voice of all of the other legislators, all of their districts, and just skip straight to the end based on demands that he's making to leadership. That's never been the way we govern in Minnesota. It's not the right way to govern in Minnesota, and really it's just political posturing by the governor, which is a really unfortunate way to handle a tragedy that we should be able to come together and find some solutions on.
Well, obviously, you only control your caucus, so you heard the association parents, they want an assault weapons ban, high-capacity ammunition ban. Does your caucus support anything even close to what they're asking for?
I don't think that there are any Republican House votes in favor of those kind of proposals, but it's again, you have to actually have bill language. You have to have a hearing on a bill in order to see whether there is some place where those things can come together. But the other states that have done that are A, tied up in legal challenges, and B, haven't really seen results that would suggest that that's a real solution to the problem.
Leader Niska, you told one of our reporters that you wouldn't let an assault weapons bill even come to the floor. So how can you talk me through how that is transparent?
I said I was not going to vote for putting that bill on the floor in the Rules Committee, and I believe I said I hadn't asked the other members of the Rules Committee how they would vote. But I did. But I do think it's unlikely that that would come through the Rules Committee.
Is your guys' understanding that a special session will be happening at this point with or without your support? Like, is that going to be held every, is that announcement imminent? So how might that work logistically to make up for it?
So again, the governor is the only one that can call the special session. If he chooses to do that, or when he does, House Republicans will be there. We will not deny quorum in the House. That is something that we will not do. House Republicans show up and we do the hard work for Minnesotans. So if he chooses to call it, or when he chooses to call it, we will be there ready to work. Any other questions? Yes?
Just in the outline of the proposal the governor made, do you see parts where there's a lot of agreement between parties and other proposals there?
You know what, as far as the proposal that made its way out to the media out of a closed-door four-leader governor meeting, multiple meetings, I think that questions for that should best be directed to them.
Leader Johnson's statement made it sound like the negotiations today deteriorated pretty quickly. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like in the room?
You know, again, as I've said multiple times, the fact that we are still talking, that is a good sign. And so we had a meeting today. It was brief, but we were still meeting. And I think that will continue. We have a long year ahead of us. Whether the governor chooses to call us back into a special session, or when we return on February 17th for our regular session, the topics that are at hand are still going to be very much part of discussion. We recognize that. So in no way do I think talks have broken down. I think the governor is really doing his job as governor, the only one that can do that, to try to decide whether or not a special session calling for that is the appropriate thing at this time. Anything else?
Yeah, looking at the governor's proposal here, it does sort of look like an all-of-the-above approach, and that's sort of the same language that I've seen out of your caucus as well, but obviously the missing piece here is guns. So why, if all of the above is the way forward, why is guns not?
Let me direct you, and I don't have a copy of that in front of me right now, but I'll direct you to the part that talks about only these items. It cuts the legislative committee process out. That is concerning. As you read through that proposal, we have to have bills that are fully vetted within the committee process and then moved forward. And so I'm not going to get into the specifics on that. Those are good questions for how they see that working. But typically what we would be doing is we would be having conversations about framework, logistics, time frame, and security concerns about a special session. And then the legislative work can continue on in a condensed form, but can continue on in a transparent process, and then we would go from there. Anything else? Any other questions?
Just to clarify your point here, is your specific contention that you're expressing there with the part that says if any legislative committee is unable to agree to final detail, legislative leader and the governor will be responsible for approving final rule language, et cetera?
That is part of it, but if you go further up into the document where it talks about only these items before the list of A through I think it is, that sentence right before there is the one that is of most concern. Any other questions or clarification? Thank you again for being here. House Republicans stand ready to go. We will lead with integrity, and we look forward to doing the work for the people of Minnesota. Very, very hard topics, but things that have to get done. Community safety, school safety, mental health supports, and punishing criminals. As we've seen the number of shootings across Minnesota escalate, we have got to get a hold of public safety too. That includes our kids in our schools. We look forward to doing the work, and it will continue on. Thank you.
Yeah, they're done. This time you come and we will shut up. Did you speak? I did.
Yeah, it was my house.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. This morning, Leader Murphy, myself, the governor, put out a offer in good faith to our Republican colleagues to have a special session to address the gun violence we've been seeing across the state and across the country in recent days. That offer included provisions that we feel very strongly about, that the community feels very strongly about, that the families feel very strongly about, including banning assault weapons and banning high-capacity magazines. We also reached across the aisle and picked up some ideas that our Republican colleagues have been saying are important to them, because we do recognize in order to pass any meaningful gun violence prevention measures through the legislature, we will need votes from both Democrats and Republicans. So we came to the table in good faith and put out an offer that we thought addressed all of those issues. But I'm feeling discouraged after listening to my Republican colleagues just now, because I hear on the one hand that we need to have an open process where all legislators can be involved, and in the very same press conference I heard Leader Niska say that there wasn't a single Republican vote for an assault weapons ban and that he wasn't even going to bring it to the floor. That's not an open process, but it is the truth that there isn't Republican support for these gun bills. And I think Minnesotans have the answer that they've been looking for about what the Republican position is on guns, that they're not even willing to have a vote on the floor, on the merits, on these very important issues. And that's deeply disappointing to me. It's deeply disappointing to my caucus. Our caucus, which has done incredible work in recent years on gun violence. We passed universal background checks and red flag laws that we know are saving lives. There was a great report in the Star Tribune just this week documenting how many successful cases of red flag laws have been passed in recent years. Though every time that happens, we're saving lives and preventing gun violence. We want to build upon that work. We want to do the work that Minnesotans expect of us. We want to do the work that the families expect of us. But it's unfortunate that our Republican colleagues don't share that resolve. So I'm feeling discouraged today, but still resolute. We're going to not give up. We're going to keep fighting, and we're going to make sure that we, at some point in the future, pass these measures, because that's what Minnesotans want.
Good afternoon. I am glad to be with my fellow leader, Zach Stephenson, and with Governor Walz in our determination to bring to the legislature in a special session a suite of measures that we believe will impact and improve the lives of people and keep our kids and our communities safe from gun violence. And we believe we cannot do that without legislation dealing with guns. And so with work over the course of a series of meetings, we did put together a proposal that we believed would meet with bipartisan support, would also achieve the goal that we need right now, which is compromise to make progress. And I think in this legislature particularly, in a divided, so closely divided legislature, we can't just look for bipartisanship. When we have to solve our most difficult issues, and let's say that keeping our kids safe from gun violence in schools is a difficult issue in this legislature right now. I don't understand why, but it is a difficult issue politically in this legislature right now. It requires compromise, not just bipartisan support. And the makeup of the legislature right now requires Republican votes to get this agenda across the line. And I am frustrated that I hear we haven't done any work and there aren't votes. I'm counting my votes, and in the Minnesota Senate, not only have we prepared for a special session with not one but two hearings, taking up a number of issues dealing with gun violence prevention, including legislation to ban high-capacity magazines and to ban assault weapons. My Republican colleagues in the Senate who came to the hearing brought not one proposal, not one. And it is time, I think, for Minnesotans to understand that there are people serving in the legislature that want to protect our communities from weapons of war. And we're willing to do it by making compromise with our Republican colleagues. They are not. We're at an impasse. I'm not surprised, but I am undeterred and will continue to work with my colleagues in the House and with the governor to make progress and to bring Minnesotans into a discussion around what it means to ban weapons of war in making sure our kids and our communities are safe. Thank you.
Is this the end of negotiations between the four caucuses and the governor for now?
I don't think that we're ever going to give up on trying to reach an agreement, because we're never going to give up on taking meaningful action to prevent gun violence. And in order to pass anything meaningful, we will need Republican votes, which is what we've been saying all along, that the state deserves clarity from Republicans about what they are willing to do when it comes to guns. And I think you got it today, because I heard Leader Niska say that there wasn't a single vote in his caucus for an assault weapons ban. So I think we got the clarity that we're looking for, that Republicans aren't willing to vote for meaningful measures to decrease gun violence in our state.
Is there cooperation though on your part? I understand when the Republicans got the plan that you worked out, it was signed by you but not by them. So are you willing to make a compromise within the parameters of all the things you listed to do? Maybe you don't do the ghost gun thing. Like, is there a give and take in that plan? Or are you just, that's the plan and take it or leave it?
Well, it'd be pretty unusual. It was an offer. It'd be pretty unusual for me to sign someone else's name to an offer sheet. We signed our names because we're making that offer to them. And it was just that, an offer that could be negotiated. And I was hoping that we get exactly the kind of counteroffer back that you described. I was hoping that Republican leadership would come back to the table and say, these are some meaningful things we can do on guns, and maybe these are some things we can't, and maybe here are some additional ideas. Instead, they came back and made a process argument about how we need to let every legislator come in. They're hiding behind process. Minnesotans are tired of excuses. They want action.
Leader Murphy, how many members of your caucus would vote yes on an assault weapons ban if it was held tomorrow?
This is a hard vote, I think, for every caucus, Democrat and Republican. Having been through this experience a decade ago, it is a consequential vote, and this is an important moment for Minnesotans. My colleagues are working very hard to understand how they will vote when this issue comes before them, and I'm counting my votes, and I will let you know. But no one has said hell no, and I think Minnesotans and my colleagues understand that this moment is important, and they're taking it very seriously.
Have you talked to, like, say, Senator Seeberger or Hostile, any of the three?
You know that I am talking with all of my members, yes.
But have they said, because obviously none of this, it's kind of a moot point if the Senate can't pass it, you got 34, have you got any indication that they would be open to it?
I am talking with my members.
And can I say it's not a moot point? I mean, there are 201 members of the legislature. 100 of them are Republicans. If Republicans would come to the table and do something meaningful on gun violence, we could get it passed. The focus should be on the fact that there are apparently 0 of 100 Republicans willing to do something meaningful on gun violence.
So there's no special session?
We're continuing to work for one. We want one. We
How
want
do
to.
you see it even happening?
We're going to have to continue to have the conversation. We're going to have to continue to talk to the public, and the public's going to have to talk to their legislators.
The last meaningful legislation passed on gun violence prevention was done in 2023 when we had Democratic control and a full governing majority. And I think Minnesotans should understand that perhaps that's it's going to take, but it can't be the responsibility of Democrats alone to keep our kids safe in schools and keep weapons of war off the street. It should not be Democrats alone. This requires Republican votes, and we need them in order to move this agenda forward.
The response from Leader Johnson said that Democrats effectively ended the meeting and indicated they would no longer work with Republicans to find agreement for a special session. Is that what happened?
What we did was recognize in the room together that we're at an impasse. And we were clear that we were going to share our offer with the public because I think it's important for the public to know. And it's important for us to act with integrity, and we are. But no one has said we wouldn't go back to the table. I'd be happy to go back to the table to find a path forward on a special session that bans weapons of war.
Do you think you have support for the constitutional amendment that the governor sort of floated in those festivals, we think?
That, just like any other provisions that deal directly with guns, requires Republican votes.
But you said you'd be happy to go back to the table, but here we are at the press conference. Is that because they told you they weren't going to put up any votes, or were you just hearing that at the press conference here now? I mean, what prompted sort of this throwing up of the hands?
Well, I think we reached an impasse. Certainly not going to get into the details of exactly what was said by who and where and when, but we've reached a clear impasse, and we wanted to have that opportunity to communicate to the public about where we're at. We made a good faith offer here that includes some provisions that are very important to us, but more importantly, they're important to Minnesotans and to the families. And then we also included provisions that Republicans have said are important to them. We didn't come out and say our way or the highway. We didn't come out and say only the things that are important to us. We made a good faith effort to reach common ground, and what we got in return was nothing.
So is the idea right now that a special session will just be held and some of these gun proposals like you saw with ban are just going to get stuck in committee, like they won't even go to a floor vote? Is that what you're expecting right now?
I'm expecting that the governor is going to exercise what is his authority to call a special session when he decides to do that. And we're going to come prepared to work if he does, and we'll take a vote.
Is your understanding that the governor is willing to call a special session where things stand right now with Republicans on board?
I think what the governor wants and what we want is to pass meaningful gun violence prevention measures at the earliest possible opportunity, and we will continue to work to do that.
Well, the governor's office said October 6th is when you have to have agreement in order to call the 12th.
That was the proposal that we put before the Republicans today. It's an offer that's on the table. If they want to accept it right now, I would still accept their signature on that offer. But that was an offer, and as we talked about a minute ago, that was something that could have been negotiated.
Leader Murphy, is your understanding that with the makeup of the Senate right now, if a special session were called with Republicans on board, that they would, I guess, not hold the process up with procedural motions and that sort of thing? I guess play nice is maybe the right word.
We haven't spent much time talking about those details of a special session, and given our experience over the last year and the work that we have done with the Republicans in both the House and the Senate, I would anticipate that we would come in and do our work in an orderly fashion for the people of Minnesota. And I do want to say that we are talking right now about a tragedy that happened in Minnesota. We lost 2 kids in a brutal shooting. Many more people were injured than that. That doesn't happen that often in Minnesota. For the community of Annunciation and for Minneapolis and for many other communities, they view it as a crisis that requires action, just like we would see when a bridge collapses, when there's a tornado or a flood. They're wondering why we can't act. That's what they're expecting of us. So I think that if we come in, if the governor calls us in, I would hope that all of my legislative colleagues would recognize that we're on very tender territory for Minnesotans who have been harmed by something that they never anticipated or expected, and we should act with the kind of dignity that they would expect and deserve.
This October 12th date that's in the offer, is that set in stone with when the special session would happen, or is that just what was on the offer?
We made a proposal. We made an offer. We were happy to negotiate all of the specifics of that offer, including the dates.
Is there a point at which you call off negotiations and you wait till the regular session, or is this something you've already done?
We are 100% committed to passing gun violence prevention measures as soon as possible, and we're never going to give up on that. For our caucus, this is very personal. The reason why I'm talking to you, as I've said before, is because our leader was killed in an act of gun violence. We're not going to give up on this. We'll keep talking about it throughout the rest of the interim, if that's what it takes, throughout a regular session, in the campaign, and into 2027. We're in it for the long haul. That's what Minnesotans expect, that we get these results.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are you going to ask them if they
That
want
was